Hello everyone, welcome to Wicked West Books. My name is Meg. This is Kestrel, and today is the February wrap-up video. There was an extra day in February, and I used it to read an extra book. That is to say, I read 7 books this month. It was a good reading month for me. I got 2 5-star reads, and only really disliked one of the books that was read this month. And let's just go through them and talk about them. And I'll tell you all about what I liked and what I didn't. And we'll let him run around. So I started off the month really well, and the first book that I picked is Emily Wilde's Map of the Otherlands by Sarah Fawcett. This is the second book in the trilogy, and I want book 3. I want to just be able to read their entire story front to back and just enjoy the vibes. This is of course book 2 in a series. I'm going to try and be not spoilery, but we're going to break it down. For CAWPILE, this book got a 5-star rating from me. So if anyone is ever wondering, I am trying my best to keep up with my reviews of each book that I read this year, and I fall behind, but I also catch up. So for CAWPILE, for this book, if the character's a 9. Yes. I absolutely love Emily, and I love Wendell. And the additional 2 characters that were really introduced for this book, I had no complaints about them. They were very also entertaining. I also gave the atmosphere a 9 out of 10 because it's still Emily Wilde's and it's just great atmosphere. If my camera moved, I just let my cat out of the room. The writing, I gave a 10. I got used to the writing in the first book. She did nothing different about the writing in the second book. And I loved that. It was very atmospheric kind of writing for me, and I greatly enjoyed it. Plot, I gave a 7. Wasn't perfect, but again, it has to do with fairies, which is why also the logic is an 8. It's not perfect, but fairies are gonna mess things up. My intrigue was a 10. I did not want to put it down at any point. I just wanted that story in my head. And of course, unsurprisingly, I gave my enjoyment for this book a 10 out of 10, because I did. It was so good, and I cannot wait to see where book 3 goes. This is a book series that I am going to own all of the books for and be extremely happy about that. I will. The next book I read was Twisted by In Gray. This is one that I got for free on a Stuff Your Kindle day. It's short, it's demon romance. I gave it a 3-star rating using the CAWPILE system, and by my entertainment level, that is high. We'll start with the entertainment on this. I gave my entertainment a 3 out of 10 for this book. I didn't enjoy it. I wanted to DNF it, but it was so short that I just pushed myself through it. I had many issues, including the writing, which I gave a 5 out of 10. It wasn't great. Go back to the beginning. The characters were a 6. I didn't care about a single one of them. Not one. Not the incubus, not the woman. I cared about her as far as escaping her abusive boyfriend in the beginning, but past that, not really. Atmosphere, 7. It was fine. I love paranormal romance, and that's what this essentially was, and it's part in a series. I just didn't like anything else about the book, realistically. Writing was a 5. Plot was a 7. It was fine. They had a goal. They worked towards it. There were some hiccups in the road. Intrigue, like I said, I wanted to put this book down. I wanted to DNF this book. Logic, 6. Didn't understand why they were doing some of the things that they were doing. They would do things and not worry about why it was going so well, even though it should have gone bad at points due to things that they were expecting. Without spoiling it, it's hard to go over exactly why. It just didn't logic through. And then again, the enjoyment was a 3. Normally with short books, I think that making them longer, filling in like holes and stuff, will make things better. But I'm glad that this one was so short so that I could stop reading it. And from this, there's also a section where the main character, Julia, was suspicious of one of the other characters, and that moment of suspicion where the main character Julia goes into this person's bedroom and looks around and sees things that are weird. Nothing happened from it. It's never addressed again. And if you're not going to address it again, I mean, like, I get that this is, like, supposed to be, I think, book 6 in a series, and I'm starting in the middle here, but it proved nothing that there was something suspicious in this character's bedroom. It proved nothing. It did nothing for this particular book. It had no relevance on the plot whatsoever. This book was just disappointing. It was disappointing. But CAWPILE made me rate it a 3 instead of the 2 that I probably would have given it. The next book that I read was the first book in the Cleric Quintet by R.A. Salvatore. The first book is called Canticle, and it was my choice for buddy read for the month of February. There is a video where my husband and I kind of discuss our thoughts and feelings about the book much closer to when we finished reading the book, but it got a 4.5 stars from me. I rounded it up on Goodreads because of course I did. The characters I gave an 8. The Boulder Shoulder brothers, they're fantastic. I love them. The main character gets more interesting as the series goes along, I swear. Danica, my first introduction to monks in the D&D world, and basically the reason, the background, the root of why I usually play monk-based characters when I'm doing a D&D game. It's my preferred class, and I love the monk in this one. The atmosphere, this book takes place in a library. If anyone wants a D&D book that takes place in a library with a book-obsessed main character, and then the writing, okay? This is written by R.A. Salvatore, and he is a fantastic writer. There is so many books. I'm blocking every single one of them, but I own like 30 books of his, and I don't think he takes up too much room on my shelves because they are just that good. He used to be a bouncer, which is a thing that I know. I also know that R is short for Robert and people call him Bob. He used to be a bouncer, which actually means that he's been in fights before because part of his job was to be in fights with people who wanted to start fights, you know? So the way that he writes fight scenes is very well choreographed and written out and clear to understand, and love that. Wasn't too much of that in here. It wasn't necessary, and also the little dwarf brothers are battering rams. Not much fighting style when you are a battering ram. The plot, it's a D&D book. They're given a quest. There is a potion that is set off in this library that is causing all of the priests to just act out on their basest instincts. They are eating until the point where their stomach ruptures because of that. There is a priestess who belongs to a love goddess, and they're doing exactly what you think that they would do. They are running around and just doing whatever their deepest heart desires, and it's not good for them. It needs to be put to a stop. And that is the plot. Intrigue, this book is short, okay? It's a 10-hour audiobook. I listened to it at 2 times the speed. 5 hours is a very short book. It is. So I got through it real quickly. I'm gonna stop waving it around. And I will be probably reading the other 4 books in this series this month. The logic goes very straightforward. Nothing special about the logic in this. It is based around something that's called the Chaos Curse, so, you know, there's that influencing the characters. And then my enjoyment is pure nostalgia. 10 out of 10, pure nostalgia factor for me. The next book I read, you can see some of it. The next book that I read is The Mask Falling by Samantha Shannon. If I were to review this book, the second that I finished it, it was a bunch of flailing. I ran around the house just flailing my arms into space because that was as articulate as I could be. If you are reading The Bone Season and you get to book 4, wait. I think book 5 comes out next year. I'm not going to bet on it. There's been some space between the last couple of books, but with the rewrite, I think that Samantha Shannon is caught up on where she wants this story to actually go. She's figured out all of the things that needed to be put back into the books to figure out where it's going in the future, and I think they come out, I think this month, I think they come out in March. I could be wrong, but I think so. I think they come out this month, and then I think next year we will get new books in this series. A new book, one, obviously, because books tend to come out once a year. I'm hoping that's the case. This is a cliffhanger ending. It will leave off, and you will be, if you're anything like me, pissed that it just ends that way. There is a review on Goodreads that says that Samantha Shannon owes me money for therapy, emotional damage, and I agree. Characters, 10 out of 10. Any iffiness that I had on them in book 3 is completely gone in this book. 10 out of 10. Atmosphere, 8 out of 10. They stay in one place. They're not traveling around everywhere, and it's Paris. It's fun. It's a new atmosphere than what they had, but somehow it feels much more reminiscent of the atmosphere in the first book, where it's just better. I liked the atmosphere for this. Writing, 9 out of 10. I don't know, writing-wise, how Samantha Shannon's going to improve on this book, but it's hardly surprising that the last book out in the series has the best writing of her series. Plot, I gave an 8. I was pretty happy with the plot overall. Oh, 8.5. It was an 8.5. A little bit more than an 8. Not enough to be a 9, but a little bit more. And intrigue, 10 out of 10. I couldn't put the book down. I had to actually read the physical book because I couldn't get it in audiobook anywhere. Logic, 8. Enjoyment, as much as it hurt me, I still put 10. Because it did make me feel things. If you're reading the Bone Season, skip book 4 for now. Until there's a book 5, you don't want to. Now, with the rewritten ones coming out, if she gives us even just an extra chapter that causes us to not have this cliffhanger ending, I will be forever grateful. Please and thank you, Samantha Shannon. You destroyed me. Destroyed me. The next book we have is A Song of Wraith and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. I keep wanting to draw that A to the end of Rosanna. Yeah, like that. This is the first book in a duology. I have owned the book. I read the book a couple years ago. I think when I read it, it was right before book 2 had actually come out and it wasn't available for me to read. And then I kind of put it down and didn't look at it anymore. I still gave it a 5-star read back before. With the CAWPILE, that rating is a 4.5. I'm more than happy to leave it marked up to 5 on Goodreads. It's just a duology, and the fact that it sat as an unfinished for reading duology on my bookcase for this long is kind of sad. I have book 2 on hold, and I want it. So for CAWPILE, characters, I gave them a 7. They're YA, and it's getting a little harder for me to relate to the YA characters quite as much, and I'm going to blame that. There's nothing wrong with the characters. I look forward to seeing their character arc in book 2 and just seeing the way that they grow as characters. The atmosphere was a 9. Was probably one of my favorite things about these books. It's just the way the culture is and all of that. I can see it, and it has an effect on the plot, and it has like a personality of its own, and the atmosphere for this book is fantastic, and I want book 2. Please give me the atmosphere for book 2. The writing is an 8. Fantastic writing. It's a YA, but it's still really good writing. The plot is an 8. Pretty straightforward. There were things that you don't quite understand until the end that should have a big impact on the characters for book 2. Intrigue was a 9. Honestly, the intrigue for this was much higher during the second read for me than it was in the first one. Knowing what was going to unfold at the end of this book that sets it up for book 2 made getting to that point much more interesting. Definitely better on the reread. The logic is 9. Everything happens pretty logically. There are some things that isn't known by the narrators, so it's hard for us to know it outside, but still pretty straightforward, pretty logic in the way that it goes. And my enjoyment for this book was an 8. And once again, I just want book 2. I've had it on hold for a while, but there's been a few people ahead of me in line, so I'm waiting as patiently as I can for book 2. The next book I read took another book off of my physical TBR. It's Witches Steeped in Gold, which I think I also bought like earlier this year. But this is Witches Steeped in Gold by Sinan Smart. I give it a 4-star rating. I am very, very pleased that I have this very beautiful copy in my hand. I got to look at it a bit more. I already knew that it was signed because of the owl crate. I did not realize that it had artwork on the inside of the dust jacket. I did not know that that was there, and that is, oh, it's so pretty. It's such pretty artwork. It's a signed copy. Thank you to whoever decided that it wasn't worth keeping, because I got it and now it's mine and it will just stay mine. Characters, I give a 9 out of 10. One of the two girls, Ira, I loved her. Like, from the page that she shows up, I absolutely loved her. I listened to the audiobook as well from the library as I read this, and there is a slight difference between the accent for Jasmine and the one for Ira, and the one for Ira did good things to my brain. It was beautiful. Both of them were beautiful, but Ira's, oof, I liked that voice. That was good voice, good accent. The atmosphere, I would have liked it to be built up just a little bit more, so I gave it a 7. The writing, this is a debut, but it is a good debut. I don't have a lot of complaints. I think it was a little harder to follow, but I think that's way more on me than on the writing, because I'm not familiar with Jamaican like magic or mythologies or anything like that, which it's very, very heavy in this book, rightfully so. Made it a little harder for me to keep up with. I know that I'm going to want to reread this book before I read book 2. The plot, I gave a 9 out of 10. Everything moved towards the plot. Everyone had clear goals of what they thought they wanted versus what other people wanted for them, versus how to go about getting what it is that they actually want, versus the world forcing them into the positions that they don't want, and all of that. The intrigue, Ira, 10 out of 10. Jasmine, not quite so much. Thus it got a 7. I never wanted the points with Ira to end, but Jasmine was a little naive, and I didn't want to read her quite as much. Logic was an 8, and my enjoyment overall was an 8. If it was only Ira's perspective, probably would have been higher, but I kind of fell in love with her on the first page and never stopped. And the final book that I read for the month of February, which I started on the 28th and finished on the 29th, which was a bad idea, let me tell you, was The Atlas Complex by Olivia Blake. I do not own this copy yet. I will, though. I will. This, of course, is the third and final installment in the Atlas 6 by Olivia Blake, and it held true to the series. It was my least favorite book in the series, but I don't quite understand the hate that I see it getting on Goodreads. All those 1-star ratings, it's rated like a 3.02 overall, which is pretty low for a book on Goodreads from what I see. I liked it. I liked it a lot. I didn't quite love it, but I liked it a lot. And I don't know if that was me reading it in 2 days and not giving it the time that it needs to really sink in. Maybe. Kinda, sorta. Could be. Very possible. But I will be buying book 3. It's a trilogy that I am going to absolutely 100% just keep. And every year, maybe every year, but every couple of years at the very least, I am going to reread this trilogy, and I know that I am going to find something brand new in it. Now, this is the 3rd book in a series. It's the final book in the trilogy, so trying not to do any spoilers for you, but I gave the characters a 9 out of 10. Everyone we know and love came back, minus a couple of characters, but you know, the main 6 came back, and we get to follow them. We get their perspectives throughout the entire thing. The atmosphere went back to feeling more like the Atlas 6 versus the Atlas Paradox, even though there were still Callum and Reyna and Parisa were not at the school. Half of them were not at the school. It still felt more like that kind of atmosphere than in book 2 with Libby, where she was. The writing, I gave a 10 out of 10. It's Olivia Blake. That's the kind of writing that I enjoy. Like, most of the 1-star reads say that it's like overwritten, and sure, but I love that the way that she does it. I do not love it the way J.R.R. Tolkien does. No. But Olivia Blake? Yes. The plot, I give a 6. There's very little plot. It's basically these young adult people, and by young adult I mean like 20, I think. I don't know. I don't actually know how old they are. I think they just had like graduated college, so young 20s, dealing with the trauma that they have gotten from books 1 and 2. It's more them dealing with their trauma than it is plot. What I wrote for plot, they're doing the best they can, and they know that the murder that they didn't commit in book 1 might mean the death of them all, and really, what is the best way to deal with that? Do you know a better way to deal with that? I don't. I was intrigued. This is the one that I wanted to read, actually, because I like what I wrote. I wanted to keep going in this story. What choices do they make? How do they talk about things? Are you in love or hate or just limbo? Can that be forgiven? Can you forgive yourself? Are you alive or dead? No, really, are you dead? Are you going to stay that way? What just happened? The intrigue was a 9, because every second there was something that happened that's like, okay, no, I can't just stop there, I must keep going. Logic? 4. The logic, these characters are so mentally unwell. They are mentally unwell. They don't make decisions using logic. They are trauma and emotion. They are not logic. It's fine, it really is. It's what kind of makes the series so entertaining for me, is seeing the way that it goes from kind of logic and moral compass, and to watch it be whittled down. It's what makes the series entertaining for me, which is why Entertainment got an 8. I did not like it as much as the first 2 books, but I also didn't even remotely dislike it, even though it has so many 1-star ratings. So that was it. That is the 7 books that I read during the month of February. We're going to see how March goes. That is going to be it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to leave a like down below. Feel free to subscribe to my channel if you have not already done so. I would appreciate it. I am trying to grow my channel. I'm trying to be consistent in posting. I'm having fun with it. I'm having fun being back in the bookish world, and I would like to stick around. And your subscribing actually will help me stick around. It makes me feel all wanted. But regardless, have a wicked day.